Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another BRAP. It's Wednesday, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm a little tired. Had a long day. Just got back from the ball field, Suns baseball game. But what's up, everyone? In the live chat. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. Please do me a favor and retweet the link. Let everyone know that we are live right now. With me, I do have Game Logic. What's going on, Game Logic?
Not much, man.
Yeah, we got kind of a slow news week. I think, right? Not a whole lot of not a whole lot of big news per se, but I got to say this though, and we'll talk about Street Fighter 6, Diablo 4. Man, we talked about this earlier, Hamp. The first 6 months of this year have been pretty solid, man. I think for game releases, I think we have a lot to celebrate here as gamers. So we'll talk about those two games that are coming out here shortly. We'll also discuss whether or not PlayStation's abandoning single player. Yes, I've seen some people voice concern over their increase in spending on games as a service type games. So we'll talk about that. And then Fable being teased maybe by Xbox, maybe being shown at the Xbox event showcase coming up here, I think in a week and a half or so, if I'm not mistaken. I forget the actual day of the showcase, but they did put out some marketing that seems to maybe indicate that we may see Fable. So we'll talk about that as well. But yeah, Logic. One of the things that we talked about. I think we talked about this earlier today. This year, the first 6 months of video games have been, I think, really great. I saw EJ post something that this is like the new, I don't know if it was him or maybe it was Shinobi, but this is like the new golden age of gaming. And, the first 6 months have been really solid in terms of game releases. Zelda released last month. That is, and that game is doing very well. There's been some other games that, Jedi Survivor, Hi-Fi Rush, a smaller title, Resident Evil 2 remake, and Hogwarts Legacy, which is it's selling incredibly well. So there's just been a lot of great games in the first 6 months, and it's really, I think it's a great time to be a gamer. I'm excited. I think I just can't find enough time in the day to play these games. As I mentioned to you, Hamp, I'm still playing Legend of Zelda, the Taken, and I always say the Taken King, Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know why I say the Taken King, but Tears of the Kingdom. So, but the Street Fighter 6 reviews came out. The Street Fighter actually releases here in 2 days, June 2nd, 2023. And the Metacritic scores, if you look at Metacritic, has this game right now at a 92 Metacritic. That's based on 69 critic reviews. So this seems to be another solid entry in the Street Fighter series. And then Diablo 4, which is releasing June 6th, but the early release is actually tomorrow. So if you pay $20, additional $20, you actually get access to the game tomorrow. And that game, 47 critic reviews, added 88 right now. So those two games are releasing, and again, added to the other games that we've had that have been pretty solid, been reviewed very well the first 6 months of the year. So, any interest in Street Fighter? I know we talked about Diablo. I think you're waiting for the Diablo PC reviews, right?
Yeah, I'm waiting to see. There are a handful of websites that are out there that are playing the long game and not jumping to the rush to gush. So that are PC centric that I kind of want to see what their takes on them are. So PC Gamer, Rock Paper Shotgun, Polygon, and one other site, maybe PC Games. I'm not sure. They're staying. Ars Technica is those four are kind of staying out of the pool, and I kind of want to see what they have to say about them before I go whole hog. Not a game that I'll be playing on console, so it's actually more essential and critical for me to kind of see what the PC take is, since that's where those games were born, and a lot of the reference views are going to be about what Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 were like on PC.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So definitely mouse keyboard for this game for you, which I understand.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I don't see any PC centric. I'm looking at some of the reviews here on Metacritic. I don't see any other PC centric.
I think PC. I can't remember who all reviews were. I noted the ones who were not
PC,
up.
PC Games N,
I think was
yeah,
on.
I saw that. Yeah, they gave it 100. They say
PC Games N did.
Yeah, PC Games N gave it 100. They said Diablo 4 embodies the essence of what makes Diablo so great, taking the best elements of its predecessors and sewing them together to create an ever-changing, ever-evolving chimera that we can't wait to play for years to come. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's a good data point. They're not the most, they don't have the legacy of long-term coverage that the other sites do. So I'm still kind of holding off, but that's a good data point. I thought there was another PC-centric site that had kind of had scored it at an 80.
Gotcha. Okay. 80's still good. 80's still good. I know people tend to poo-poo on 80s, but 80s are still good games. Thank you. Atherin says, I give BRAP podcast a 100 on Metacritic. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's see some of the other, your favorite website here, Ham. Windows Central.
No, don't even mention them. Don't even mention them.
I just had to.
Were you going to call out the review right at the top that was a 100?
Yes, that's what I said. Yeah. Simply put, Diablo 4 may be Blizzard's best game.
Oh, wait. You said PC Games and no, they did. Okay, I had to expand it.
Yeah, no, they did. They gave it 100. Yeah, they gave it a really good score. Yeah. Your favorite website, Windows Central, gave it 100. Let's see. I'm trying to look at some other ones here. I've never heard of Gaming Trend. NPR gave it a 95. Let's see here. IGN France, Game Rant. Forbes gave it a 90. What did we do the review for Forbes? I wonder if that was Tassie or not.
Yeah, WCCF Tech gave it an 85. I reckon they reviewed it on PC.
They gave it an 85?
Yep.
Oh, I see it right here. Diablo.
Destructoid gave it an 80. I'm sure they reviewed it on PC.
Yeah. Attack of the Fanboy gave it an 80. See, WCCF Tech said Diablo 4 is a return to form at a much needed time for Blizzard. Delivers incredibly fun hack and slash action combat, greatly improved skill system, and a ton of things to do. Not to mention the best story told in the franchise yet. It also looks awesome, sounds great, runs well, except for rare instances of traversal stuttering. The game is actually, and I think you mentioned this to me, Hap, this game is cross-play, cross-save, whatever, cross-platform. Similar to... yeah, go ahead.
And Shack News also gave it an 80. So those are all PC-centric sites. I'm very curious I'm just curious to see, what RPS, Polygon, PC Gamer, and ours have to say, and why. I'm sure. I don't know if it's that they want to see all of the end game content, or at least get an inkling of kind of season pass, battle pass, whatever there is. So I'm not exactly certain why they're staying out of the pool. So I don't even know if their reviews are necessarily going to come out like after. It could be that they're just waiting for after like formal release for day one patch, but I'm not sure. But yeah, just definitely interested in hearing what their what their final review scores are.
Yeah, I saw some of the big shout out to Ains from Season Gaming. He did a review as well, and he was showing some of the gameplay footage that he captured. And yeah, man, I'm telling you, like that FOMO started to kick in a little bit. And I said this to you earlier today. This might be maybe the game that leads me to putting Zelda Tears of the Kingdom down, but I don't know, man. I mean, it also depends, I think, for me, if I can get, a couple guys together, or, a couple gamers together to, well, hello to you, Brian King. That was quite the entrance there. The live chat. Nice play on words. But no, if I could get, a couple gamers together and, could get some consistent co-op, this could be something I dive into release date. I'm not going to spend the extra $20 though to go, to start playing tomorrow. I'm not going to do that. Not for this game. But I did. I will say this. I said this before when we talked about the beta. I did enjoy the beta. I thought it was fun. But it's I think this is encouraging to see a lot of these reviews speak positively of Diablo 4. Now there's some negative reviews in there. I saw a couple 70s in there from Level Up and Games RD. Gamers RD. Some of these websites I've never even heard of.
Yeah, I don't necessarily consider a 70 a negative review. I mean, given the bevy. I mean, yes, it's a year where we've gotten some bangers, but there have also been some stinkers, some poo poo out in the first two quarters of this year.
Golem? Or Gollum.
I think Golem is like a 35 on Metacritic right now.
Oh man, really? That's brutal. Yeah, and I see Ars Techna still in progress. I see that. PC Gamer. See what PC Gamer said so far?
I was looking at theirs was the one that was the least encouraging. Basically, they said that they could see the potential in the game, but they were still, however far they were into the game, they were still kind of waiting around for the game to kind of measure up to its potential. So, but I'll take that with a grain of salt, with depending on what the other sites say. But it was an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, Ars Techna saying, their review still in progress. If you love ARPGs, enjoy the combat of Diablo 3 and the atmosphere of Diablo 2, I think you're going to love this game. It's not a brain-melting, complicated as Path of Exile, but it doesn't want to be. This is streamlined, big-budget loot hunting, and I absolutely love it. Ignore the monetization nonsense. Vibe out on the demon slaying, and you'll have a great time.
Was that the PC Gamer early look?
No, that was Ars Technica.
Yeah.
Ars Technica.
So, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see, and I don't know necessarily that these websites are caught up in it, but there's certainly a lot of people caught up in the race to level up, right? And caught up in the speed reading aspect of the game, to complete it or chew through as much of it as quickly as possible. And that's not really reflective of the way that I personally approach games. So, I mean, a review, a review is a review, but a review that's chasing to beat or to make embargo, may not hold as much water for me as people who are taking their time and chewing their food to get the reviews posted. So, like I said, it's just an interesting. I mean, what I will say is, when did Cyberpunk come out? Was that the end of 2020? So when
was Cyberpunk?
I mean, I thought it was a holiday, the holiday season of the new console releases.
Yes, you're right. Yep, that's right.
So in an industry where the last couple of years have really been, characterized by people trying to play the shell game and hide the peanut, right? And slip these reviews to sites, at the last minute, or not give out a lot of reviews, or pull a lot of shuck and jive, or pull the Phil Spencer. Yes, there is something hidden behind my back. That's not an accusation of Phil. Phil actually said, there's nothing behind my back. But try to pull. We've had things like this, which in the past has always been, even from the movie industry, right? You know what to expect when there's a movie's coming out and there haven't been a ton of pre-screenings, right? So I think a lot of people have become aware of that practice over the last couple of years and treat it like it's some new shiest, but actually the shiest has been around for a very long time. But the point is that it feels like more and more games are kind of trying to skate by with that. So it's just nice to see a really big title like this that there's going to be a ton of coverage over, that has a long legacy behind it. It's really nice to see that the review copies got out early, that reviewers had lots of time to play it and sit with it. in comparison and contrast to, some of the other practices that we've seen around the industry.
Yeah, that's a great point, Hap. I'm just trying to look at some of the other reviews here. Yeah, like I said, I may pick this up next week, but we'll see. Like I said, if I can get some people, a group of people to commit to playing, I may pick it up, but we'll see. We'll see. The other review that I mentioned was Street Fighter 6. That releases here in 2 days on Friday, and that is coming at 92 Metacritic score based on 69 critic reviews. Now, Hap, did you? I know we talked about your experience playing Mortal Kombat, but have you historically played the Street Fighter series?
I've historically not. So Street Fighter, in my memory, was kind of the reason why I couldn't stand fighting games as a kid. And I eventually kind of came back around to them. The fighting games that really pulled me over the edge and got me in were Tekken and Soul Calibur. Virtua Fighter, maybe to a certain extent. Actually, I should really pay tribute to the real king, Elemental Heroes, which is a deep cut, which most people won't know, but was a Sega fighting game. Because actually prior to that, I absolutely couldn't stand fighting games whatsoever. But was never a huge fan of the Street Fighter series. I have really gravitated towards the Mortal Kombat games since the reboot. I think that's MK9, 10, and 11. That really went to the cinematic cutscenes and things like that, kind of strung in between the fights. All the work NetherRealms also did with Injustice and Injustice 2. I really gravitated more so to those games. So the interesting thing about Street Fighter 6 is it looks like it has elements that those games have been pursuing packed in. But quite honestly, I don't know the full entire story behind, exactly what the content is. So once I hear more about that, I'll decide whether or not, I'm going to get in the pool. But, if it's the standard package of, it's really a game designed for, couch PvP and online PvP, only, I probably, won't get into it that much.
Yeah, I need to revisit Mortal Kombat 11. I know you spoke highly of it, and I haven't played Mortal Kombat in a very, very, very long time. And I do have some history with Street Fighter, but I fell off with Street Fighter many, 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 many years ago. I think the last time I really played Street Fighter is when it came out on the Xbox. I believe it was the original Xbox, where you could play on Xbox Live. And I remember, playing against people overseas. That was kind of interesting, but that's probably the last time I really played Street Fighter. But my early memories of Street Fighter go back to the first Street Fighter, and then Street Fighter 2. I remember, just that being a phenomenon in the arcades and going in and putting your quarters down so you could have next. And I remember the big arcade cabinets, Street Fighter 2 cabinets, and then playing Street Fighter 3 and. What were some of the other ones? I don't remember now, but anyhow, looks interesting. When they revealed it, I was like, oh, this looks pretty good. But some of the reviews here, and I'll just kind of summarize there. Comicbook.com gave it 100. They said everything feels carefully considered for those jumping into Street Fighter 6 as their first game in the series. But at the same time, there's clearly a ton of digging into for those who want to keep playing on deeper and more dedicated levels. Street Fighter 6 is just pure fun. And every punch hits hard, every kick feels great, and it's just so cool to look at. It's the most fun I've had with Street Fighter in years, and the great, hard-hitting start to a powerful new era for the franchise. Actually, my 9-year-old saw me watching a video of this. He actually wants to get it. I'm like, dude, you're not ready for Street Fighter. You're 9. But I don't know. Maybe he is, man. Maybe he'll get good at it. Games Radar also gave it 100. They said, whether you're a hardcore fighting game player or a casual Street Fighter fan who hasn't touched the series for a generation or so. Actually, that's encouraging for me to hear, because I haven't touched the series in a very long time. Street Fighter 6 has something for you, and not only that, manages to offer enough reason for both sides to dip their toes into the other side's water. It's a strong package, arguably the best overall fighting game package ever made. But it'd all be for naught if this fighting system that underpins it wasn't up to much. It just happens to be the most flexible, versatile, expressive combat and Street Fighter gaming expressive combat in a Street Fighter game to date. Street Fighter 6 is perfect. Is a perfect place to start, or a brilliant continuation and exceptional time for those who are looking to play 30 hours or 3,000 hours. So that's what Games Radar had to say. And I'm trying to let's go down the list here. Capcom's had some solid releases this year. Resident Evil 2 Remake also reviewed very well. The lowest score that I'm seeing here is a 70 from Cube3. I don't know if we know who that is. They're saying Street Fighter 6 in its simplest form remains a fantastic, fun experience, retaining the same gameplay that has been tweaked and improved throughout the years to ensure it remains top of the pile. Jarring attempts to meet the needs of young players alongside a world tour mode that fails to meet the hype placed upon it, however, stopped this from being an essential purchase. Stick to the arcade mode, enjoy what made the franchise so great in the first place. And a fantastic fighter is there, just buried under the fluff. So that was that's what Cubed 3 had to say. Yeah, I don't know, Hamp. I've kind of been on the fence with this one, man. Like I liked when they first revealed it, and reading some of these reviews have piqued my interest. But I don't know, man. Again, my issue is that I'm so focused on Tears of the Kingdom right now. I don't know if I want to pick up any other games, but I don't know. We'll see.
That's cap.
Hey, let me tell you something, Game Logic. You know what powers that cap?
Freedom.
Exactly. Freedom. All right. So yeah, I mean, this is again, man. I'm excited to see all these games coming out the first 6 months, and then we have Final Fantasy 16 coming out too. That comes out in June. What's up, Blades? Congratulations, by the way. I saw the wedding pictures. Congratulations to you, sir. Yeah, but this is yeah. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, man. Like this is like the first 6 months. This is, geez, again, man. And I'm getting old. I'm starting to show my age now.
2017.
Thank you. You read my mind. No, but this 6 months has been incredible. I mean, this is just awesome. Especially like being a multi-platform owner, man. Like I'm eating well. I'm eating very well right now.
Yeah. So just to fill that out, I think I thought where BRAP was going was, when was the last time we'd had a year this good? And my contention was. And my contention would be 2017, the year of the Nintendo Switch launch. But we got good games, not just on the Nintendo Switch. But unfortunately, I can't. I'm sure, actually, I'm looking at the Metacritic, but
so that year we had Horizon Zero Dawn, we had Cuphead, Mario Odyssey, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, Resident Evil 7, Biohazard. What Remains of Edith Finch? I can't even talk. What Remains of Edith Finch was actually a great indie game. I don't know if you played that. But I don't remember. We had
I think you mentioned Super Mario Odyssey.
Yep.
Divinity Original Sin 2 by Larian Studios. Persona 5 came out that year.
Persona 5, that's
Undertale.
Right.
Yep, Undertale, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe obviously was delivered on the Nintendo Switch. SteamWorld Heist Shovel Knight, Retro City Rampage, Bayonetta came out on PC at least that year.
Destiny 2 also, I believe, launched in 2017. Is that?
Yeah, I believe it did. Yep.
Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle released in 2017. Yeah, PUBG released on PC and Xbox One. Cuphead was also another release that year.
Yeah, I guess, was that the first year Call of Duty broke $1 billion?
I don't remember, man. I do not remember.
I'm not sure.
But
Call of Duty, that was WW2. Which I personally think, I know it's not a popular opinion, people don't necessarily agree with me. I personally love the single player campaign of that game. Josh Duhamel and some of the other actors in that I thought like had done some of the best voice acting. Um, of the series single player campaigns that I'd played. But yeah, it broke a bill that year.
Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus came out that year too. That was a good one. I enjoy that. God, Persona 5 might be my favorite game of the year of 2017, man.
Yeah. Financial performance that year, PUBG, Call of Duty World War II, GTA 5 Online, Super Mario Odyssey, Star Wars Battlefront 2 made big dollars despite being delivered with peasant levels of content in its initial dropping. FIFA 17 also did well that year. Overwatch financially performed well that year. Yeah, but it was just a big year, and I mean, what most struck out to me was how, way back in the day, particularly if you were a PC gamer, releases used to be scattered throughout the year, right? So if you go back to, man, like the early 2000s, I'd probably say, between like, I don't know, like 2003, 2010. It wasn't necessarily this huge like bumper crop. Again, mostly around PC. It wasn't this huge bumper crop of holiday releases only in the holiday. I feel like we got good games throughout the year, and 2017 was the first year that I felt like we really came back to that. I think it was the first year that we, in my mind, that we saw these games that got pushed out of the holiday season, instead of them just being delayed until the next holiday season, actually release, in Q1 of that year, and the year, kicked off with a bang with, Resident Evil 7 and Horizon Zero Dawn and Breath of the Wild. And that's what sticks out in my mind, about it being such a banger year and carrying through. Now it feels like we've gone back to, if games get delayed in Q4 of the calendar year, there's a very high likelihood, right, those games are just going to be held until, holiday season of the next year. But yeah, it feels like we're off to a similar start. Although I feel, and I would have to go back and really look at the facts around this. It's maybe more of an emotion than, historical reality. I feel like I mentioned earlier, like we've gotten also our handful of stinkers as well, though, as all of the great ones have been coming out, more so than we did in 2017.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I'd have to go back and see like what stinkers released in 2017, but I'm looking at like there's Prey also released in 2017. That was Arcane's last good game. Well, I shouldn't say that, but the last one I enjoyed. Trying to see what else was out there because I feel like Gravity Rush 2. Did you ever play Gravity Rush 2?
I didn't. No.
Yeah, that came out in 20. That was a great game. Great game. The traversal in that game, like just the like using like the power to like shift direction, like of gravity. Yeah, it was really good game. And that was actually Gravity Rush. The first Gravity Rush was I think it was a PSP game or a Vita game. I don't remember, but they one of the Sony handheld devices. It was actually developed for one of the handheld devices, and then it was actually ported over to PlayStation 4. The port was actually really good, and then the sequel was fantastic. So that was another great game in 2017 that I enjoyed. What was another one? Did Fire Emblem? Fire Emblem didn't come out that year, did it? No,
I don't think so. No. Not Three Houses. No.
I thought one of the Fire Emblem games came out.
There could have been a Fire Emblem game that came out. It wouldn't surprise me if one of the last ones on the 3DS would have come out that year.
Maybe that's what it was then. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, okay. Maybe that's that. Maybe it was. It might have been. I think you're right on the like 3DS or something. The Evil Within 2 also came out that year. That's Tango Gameworks, Bethesda Software. Supergiant Games released Pyre. Did you ever? I don't know if you've played any of the Supergiant games.
Nope.
Yeah. So Pyre was actually another good game from them. Oh man, what's the game that they came out with that won the roguelike that one game of the year? Hades. Did you play Hades, Hamp?
I did not play Hades. No.
Oh man, fantastic game. Really solid game. So that was another game that came out in 2017. Dude, 2017 was stacked. I'm actually Hellblade came out that year.
Oh wow. Yeah, like I said, it was just. I mean, it was a bumper crop of games. So yeah, I mean, that's the bar that I feel like 2023 needs to meet before it walks away with the crown of best year in gaming ever. Unlike most years, people make that claim, and I'm like GTFO with that mess. Like it's just it's the claim that so many gamers make every single year based on no actual looking at historical quantitative data. But this year, I think it's a valid contention. 2017 had its stinkers, though. Like I mentioned, Battlefront 2, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. It's one of the years that the Ghost Recon series fell off, which is a series that has been near and dear to my heart with Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Wildlands wasn't good, yeah.
Remember how bad For Honor was when it came out?
Yep.
But this is one of the things that I point to when I talk about Ubisoft and the way that they stick with things and quite frankly just throw money at things until they get them up over the edge. And For Honor has a staunch community, right, that stuck with that game, which I've never kind of just understood, but there it is. Guardians of the Galaxy, the Telltale series wasn't great. Mass Effect Andromeda, man, what a rake to step on,
Oh my
for
God.
a formerly great studio.
I couldn't even play it, man. I played a little bit of it. I was like, yep, this isn't this isn't it.
Right. I know people are going to hate this, but I'm going to mention a title that Sony, that PlayStation fumbled the ball with, Gran Turismo Sport. Which is why sometimes I don't hold the Gran Turismo series overall in such high esteem over its total lifetime. I think some of these were smaller titles. Those are the ones that were stinkers, that were bigger, well-known titles that people were really looking forward to. Everything else that was kind of a stinker was and then 1-2 Switch. It was not necessarily the crown jewel of the Nintendo Switch release games that we got.
There was a Nintendo Switch game. It was like a fighting game. It was actually pretty decent. God, what was it called, man?
Oh yeah, that now it's faded into memory. Yeah, the one where you had the extendable arms. Or
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, and people would fight with you would pull the Joy-Cons off, and you would fight with the Joy-Cons like the old Wiimote or whatever.
Yeah, I remember playing with my 13-year-old Arms. Thank you.
Arms, yeah.
Yeah, it was actually pretty good. I was surprised. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty fun. I thought it was well done.
Yeah, it was a sleeper hit, was the way I kind of remember it. People saw that thing and we were like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw it, I was like, what is this? I was like, this is and then I played it because my son wanted it. I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty good. The fighting mechanics were decent.
Yep.
And I think each robot or whatever it was had different skill sets or something. I forget, but it was fun. It was a good game. I was I would say it was kind of that surprise. So I'm trying to think. So what else this year, 2023, we still have Gregor Von says, I'm still waiting for Feet. That's the sequel, Gregor Von Oh my God. Speaking of games, I saw, what might be a stinker, Logic. I saw the gameplay footage of All Elite Wrestling's upcoming wrestling game. Oh man, dude. It looks pretty brutal. It looks like a 360 game, but anyhow. So we have Spider-Man 2 coming out this year. We have not Street Fighter, I'm sorry. Final Fantasy 16, Starfield. Look, Hamp, I'm going to throw it. I think Starfield could be Game of the Year contender, man. I'm just going to throw that out there. that pedigree, man. Todd bless. What else? What other big releases are coming out this year? Now I'm drawing a blank. Spider-Man 2, Starfield. I know I'm missing a bunch. You think we get Forza this year, Hamp?
Man, like if we, yeah, I'm gonna assume so. I'm still gonna be salty about the fact that we don't have it yet, but I would assume that it lands sometime this year.
I mean, you would imagine, right?
Yeah, and I know these titles aren't ones that everybody is looking forward to, which is why I will mention them, because they otherwise won't get spotlight. But they're things that I'm interested in. I did not realize that there was a Super Mega Baseball 4 was coming out, actually end of this week. F1 23 is coming out in June for racing fans. MotoGP 23 is also coming out this month or June for racing fans as well. I'll keep looking through, and I'll maybe make less of picking up my personal favorites. Immortals of Avium comes out in July. Actually, I didn't realize that Ratchet and Clank. I didn't realize that the PC port of Ratchet and Clank. I know we're going to talk about that tonight. I didn't realize that had gotten dated. Supposedly dated for July 26th.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
I don't know if that's valid. That's.
I'd have to. Yeah. Well, we did get also this year the Persona series. They relaunched that on Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 4. Also, Persona 4 Golden came out again. Hi-Fi Rush, we're talking about Dead Space, the Dead Space remake. Your favorite, Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. I'm just laughing. I'm just mentioning that because of our conversation earlier. Metroid Prime Remake was another game that came out this year. Moss Book 2. Sure. I've heard great things about Moss on PlayStation VR, but I've never played Moss. I haven't played, but I've heard those are good games. Horizon Call of the Mountain, which was DLC. Just trying to see what else came out this year. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. I didn't play that. That came out for Nintendo Switch in February.
Did you mention the Resident Evil 4 remake?
Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah, Resident Evil 4 remake. Yep. MLB The Show. Wo Long came out in March as well.
Yep. Yep. PC Port of Returnal.
Yeah, PC Port of Returnal. That's right. Yeah. What else?
Octopath Traveler 2.
That's right. Octopath Traveler 2.
Jedi Survivor.
Yep.
Not a personal game, not a game that I'm personally interested in, but I have been hearing good things about Humanity.
Yeah, I've heard some good things about Humanity as well. The reviews have been pretty positive for it. Hey, by the way, Worry Wort's with us. What's up, Worry? I wasn't ignoring you, I promise. If Worry's there, maybe
he might be on mute.
Maybe he's muted. Where are you? You are muted. Maybe he left. Worry, are you there? Hello. He took a bathroom break.
Yeah. Dredge, I've been hearing good things about that. Again, not something that I'm personally interested in. Did you mention Hogwarts Legacy, I think, earlier in the show?
I did.
Age of Wonders 4 on PC, which I have, and I've toe dipped into it, but I haven't played a ton of it. But I have had fun from what I have experienced. Stranded: Alien Dawn, which is a PC game, is a kind of a survival but RTS kind of game where you're kind of managing humans who have crash landed and are now stranded on a planet, having to kind of rebuild a civilization. Ghostwire Tokyo hit Xbox. I'm gonna screw up the pronunciation of this, I'm sure, but Atelier Ryza 3. Did I pronounce that correct? I probably didn't pronounce that correct. Advance Wars 1 and 2, which I need on the Switch.
I forgot about
probably
that.
Came out.
On the Switch. Yeah,
Reboot Camp. I have not had a chance to get over to that, but I'm definitely interested in eventually getting to it. WWE 2K23. Captain Ply mentioned Everspace 2 earlier in the chat. I had fun with Everspace. I know that it's a good game. I'm not a super huge fan of anything that smells anything remotely roguelike, but I'm sure that it's a good title.
Yeah.
Like
Armor
a
Core
Dragon
6 is
Ishin?
coming
Did you
out
mention
too.
that one?
What's that?
Like a Dragon Ishin?
No, I didn't mention that. You're right. That came out. That reviewed pretty well as well.
Fire Emblem Engage. I can't remember if you mentioned that one or not.
I don't think I did. But you look at, like, if you look at August, like, there's Baldur's Gate 3, Armor Core 6, which is coming out. That's multi-plat.
Yep.
And obviously Starfield September. Mortal Kombat 1 is also September. Alan Wake 2 is supposed to be released in October.
Yeah. AC Mirage in October as well.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know if that list we just read off here still beats 2017. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the key thing is I don't believe that we know everything that's going to drop in holiday for this year. I think it's the big thing. So I think there's some surprises that could make an impact on what happens.
Yeah, I think where are you back? He's still on mute. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 has. I'm kind of interested in that, but that could be something I pick up.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that's not dated. We still have the Call of Duty variant that's going to come out this year.
We don't know what that's going to be, right? Like, we don't know if that's going to be like. Are they going to go back?
It is supposedly going to be a full blown game. It's a Sledgehammer title, which again I talked about WW2, which gives me high hopes that the single player campaign will be good again. I'm fine if it's not a banger multiplayer. I know everyone else won't be. I know Activision won't be. But I don't.
Oh, real quick, did you see that interview with? Oh God, what's his name now? I'm tired, man. I need coffee. I should have got some coffee on the way back home from the ball game. Bobby Kotick's interview with Vanity Fair.
Oh, no, I would never watch that.
Oh man, I tell you, he was talking about the sexual harassment stuff, and I'm just like, oh, Bobby, come on, dude. He basically was like, well, it's not uncommon for large companies to have, these issues, of harassment. We've taken these things
especially when the CEO covers for it and allows that culture to exist, if not directly, pushes it.
I think what was off-putting to me was that he's even saying, well, like, hey, these things happen. Yeah, they happen in small numbers. It's not. No, how about the response should have been, you know what? Yeah, terrible. We don't tolerate that behavior. We're working on it. Here's what we've done. Rather than that kind of like, well, it does happen. It doesn't happen a lot. That was kind of his response to that. And I'm just like, Bobby, yeah. Anyhow, it was interesting too, though.
He's got Lulu to spin it for him, so he doesn't really have to worry about it.
No, exactly. And people, they prop Lulu up like a god, which is kind of weird. But no, he also one thing that was actually interesting, and I didn't mean to derail the conversation. We're talking about Call of Duty, but it just made me think of the interview with Bobby Kotick and Vanity Fair. One of the things that was interesting, he talked about them buying Time Warner if the acquisition by was it AT&T acquiring when they acquired was it Time Warner? Shit, now I forget. I think it was Time Warner. This is back years ago when that acquisition was happening. AT&T was buying Time Warner, and Bobby Kotick said that they had actually the board they were trying to they'd actually approved trying to buy Time Warner and had raised the capital to do so. So kind of interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the idea was to do what we see Sony doing right now with their games turning into movies and then like movies turning into games. That's what they wanted to create. So didn't happen though. But anyhow, sorry man, go ahead. You're talking about Call of Duty.
Yeah, but I was more supposed to talk about things that are. I mean, we rattled off the things to look forward to the rest of this year, but there's still stuff that's not dated. Again, I'm no huge fan of RTSs on console, but since we brought up AOE 2, AOE 4 is actually supposed to hit console later this year. I was just looking at a bunch of stuff. Now I'm missing it. Dune Spice Wars is supposed to come to PC, which is something that I've been interested in. Unclear what the pedigree is going to be behind that and exactly what the full-blown game design is, but hopefully, I mean, the Dune RTS, that was, I can't remember what more famous RTS that one predated, but I was always a big fan of that. Forza Motorsport obviously still coming. Front Mission 2 is actually getting a remake supposedly this year. That's supposed to come out on Switch. Grand Blue Fantasy, which we saw during the PlayStation Showcase, was not dated, but is supposed to be this year. Helldivers 2, we should also be seeing show up this year on PlayStation 5 and PC. Theoretically, I guess we'll know, maybe we'll hear about it in the next upcoming in the Xbox Showcase. But Hollow Knight Silksong is supposed to come out. Homeworld 3 is supposed to be dropping. I know people have been anticipating that coming back. You mentioned Spider-Man 2. The Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1, the remaster, that's supposed to drop this fall as well. Payday 3 is supposedly coming out on PC later this year.
Oh, I wasn't aware.
So, yeah. Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. Is that one still coming out this year, or was there an announcement of that being delayed into 24?
I know it was delayed. I don't know. I haven't really been following up with it, like keeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that should still come out in 23. I guess, again, if it doesn't show up at the showcase here on June 11th, then I guess we'll know. I did not realize that there was a Test Drive Unlimited coming out this year, supposedly.
Finally, I figured this out. Sorry, guys.
I was like, worry. I responded to your tweet. I'm like, you're muted.
You want to know? I'm looking at the Discord, and I'm muted in the Discord. So I unmuted it, and I'm like, why isn't this working? And I just looked over at the microphone, and it's muted, the actual Yeti microphone.
Oh.
So I had to push the button to unmute it.
You got to push the button, man.
Yeah, that's what she said.
What's up, Worry? Welcome to BRAP, sir.
What's going on? How are you?
Good, man. Yeah, we're just running down, like, we were talking about the first 6 months of 2023, and we were talking about what we think was a great year in 2017, and now looking at the other releases that are pending for 2023, and
why did you pick 2017?
Because that to me was one of the more recent years that I can remember in my old age, being one of the best years that I can recall in gaming more recently. We read off some of the titles that released in 2017. Persona 5, Eden Fitch. God, I forget. Horizon, Forbidden West. Mario Odyssey. The launch of the Nintendo Switch that year too. With Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. So, and there's some other games there too we talked about. So
you're disappointed with 2023?
No.
You're not disappointed?
No. We were saying that the first 6 months of 2023 have been great.
Oh yeah, I think they've been pretty good actually. Yeah. There's been a lot of really good games. A lot of, what's interesting? There's a lot of, I don't know if it's because I'm old, but there are a lot of really good. I don't want to say indie games because I really don't see them as indie, but let's just say maybe AA that I think flew under the radar that I found to be really, really good. I know one that's pretty shallow that a lot of people glossed over was Evil West, it's called.
Yeah, Eric Jackson was playing that. Yeah, he said he liked it.
It's kind of like a Gears / God of War clone, but it's just sort of like a mindless, fun time that you kind of lose yourself in. And it's basically just a video game, something that you don't go into thinking that you're going to have this great exposition or emotional experience. It's just a lot of fun, great looking game, pretty cool premise, a lot of great characters. So that one flew under the radar for me.
Yeah, what other like AA games have you played this year that you thought were kind of like flew under the radar and were pretty good?
Well, I mean, I don't think Hi-Fi Rush flew under the radar, right? It was kind of like everybody talked about it. I thought that was pretty good out of nowhere, especially when it comes to Microsoft. I was kind of like, wow, this is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was a great release. Yep.
what else was I playing? There was this it's another one that was on Xbox. It's part of the I think it's part of the games with gold this month. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing this wrong. So I don't know if it's called Ho or Hoa. HOA.
If you're Italian, both words are bad, worry.
Right. I'm Italian, so saying Hoa, I'm kind of like, I don't want to say it, but that's the name of the game, HOA. I don't know how to pronounce it. Ho or Hoa. It's a really, really good sort of old
Homeowners Association sim.
Yeah. It's a really good, old school platformer. And I think actually this month for what is the game coming out this month for the PlayStation Plus? It's not. What are the games this month? They just announced them. There was one in there. It was an indie.
One we mentioned earlier was Humanity, and that's on PlayStation Plus this month.
Yeah, that's the VR one, right?
No, that's like I call it like the Lemming simulator, but serious.
The Lemming simulator. What is the PlayStation Plus? PlayStation Plus games. Let me search that real quick.
You talking about Jurassic World Evolution? No, Trek to Yomi.
No. Trek to Yomi, yes.
Trek to Yomi. Yeah, that's what I'm actually going to check out because that
came to, I think, Game Pass first, right? That was on Xbox first.
I don't remember, man.
Yeah, I think it came to Game Pass a while ago.
But it had this like cinematic action, black and white. Yeah,
it's a 2.5D-esque, almost like a Ghost for Tsushima style era game. Really good. So
yeah,
a lot of games like that.
That guy Smitty called it Trek to Yum.
Trek to Yum?
Yeah, I think he might be hungry.
Okay. All right. So other than that, it's I've been doing that and trying to avoid anything Windows Central. That's about it.
Oh man. Speaking of PC releases, I know we went that Ratchet and Clank was just announced as coming to PC. I'm not surprised by that. I think we're going to see Sony doing this. Nixus is working on the port. Thank goodness. Considering how disappointing the Last of Us Part 1 port is. But I don't know if I probably won't double dip with this one. I really enjoyed Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I think it's still one of the best looking games this generation. Did you play Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart?
Absolutely. As soon as it came out.
Okay.
Great game. Yeah. Great game.
Yeah,
I'm not really into the whole, I don't really see the outrage around games going to PC. It's not a platform for me as a console gamer. I don't care if games are there. To me, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, I experienced it on a PlayStation as a console gamer. That's the only place I could experience. So not a big deal for me. It's almost like back in the day. Remember when Gears of War first came out and how big it was on the Xbox 360?
Yeah.
That was on the PC. Remember when they added in that Brumac mode for the PC where you fought the Brumac?
I do remember that, yeah.
Right. And I didn't care. Did anybody care back then that these games were on PC? It was a huge Xbox game for the console.
I've never really cared.
I mean,
man. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how everyone else handled it, but I mean, people who were up in arms on Xbox. I mean, and there were a small portion of people who would get up in arms about games going to PC, and I mean, I don't know if it was particularly effective, but I pointed out to them the foolishness of that, considering that both PC games and Xbox games are developed on top of DirectX. It makes absolutely zero sense to be salty about games on. It is nothing but perfect sense for games that are developed for Xbox to also go to PC.
Yeah, are all the PlayStation games developed DirectX? Even though they have their independent.
No, they have.
Engines?
Yeah, they have a different abstraction layer that they use that I understand is some extrapolation off of OpenGL, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't care. PC, I know, BRAP, you're big into PC. PC doesn't. It's not in my sphere of consciousness when it comes to gaming, so I just don't. It doesn't bother me at all.
Worry, I didn't tell you this, but I bought you a PC. It's being shipped to your house.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't do Windows here, so it's going to sit outside.
I was waiting for that. Worry is a Apple person, a Mac person.
Yeah, and I'm not one of those people who are. I'm going to tell you 100%. If you ask me about anything about Apple, I'm a complete and total fanatic. So don't ask me. It's always going to be perfect. I'm an idiot when it comes to stuff like that. And it's basically just because of growing up, and that's what me and my father sort of got into computers with the original Mac and stuff like that. So
I remember the
I'm
original Mac. My aunt had
So
one. Yeah.
interestingly enough, I always make it a point that anytime the PC port of The Last of Us is brought up on the show, I always run, or really any PC port or almost any PC game is brought up on the show that is alluded to as being bad. I always like to do an up-to-date check of its current take of the Steam community, and it has slipped to mostly positive on Steam now.
That's
amongst
good.
its recent reviewers. Yeah.
That's usually a good sign.
Game.
Oh yeah, it's a great. I held off on buying, and I was going to buy the PC port of The Last of Us Part 1, but after reading about some of the issues and reading some of the user reviews on Steam, I'm like, nope, I'm going to wait. But that's encouraging, Game Logic, that's happening, because I think you've said this numerous times on the show that the Steam community does a pretty good job at providing critical feedback of games that are on the Steam.
It is an incredibly rare instance that I ever go against the Steam community. I basically give them 99% assumption that what I see on Steam is valid, with very rare exceptions. I don't cross the Steam community. I've tried that once or twice, and it has always turned out bad to cut the grain against what that collective thinks. They are, in my opinion, the only reliable community of user reviews and trends that you'll see. And so that looks like the most recent rounds were boosted by a recent patch that just dropped for the Tilu remake, a version 1.0.5.1 patch. And actually, I've been staying out of the Cyberpunk pool as well until that game got higher in terms of its recent reviews, and it just nudged above kind of the level that I'd be willing to get in the pool on Cyberpunk. So yeah, it's great that and I know that the industry has problems with their approaches to quality, and people are concerned and bothered by day one releases and things of that nature, and I understand it's nice that there's a place that you can go and look at how these things trend as patches are released. So if there's a game that you are interested in, you're armed with some information and data to make a decision of whether or not you want to engage with that game, at some point after its launch, after it gets some number of patches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, real quick, Logic, I don't mean to backtrack here. I meant to ask you when we were talking about Diablo 4. Did you see the Diablo Artis 7Ps?
No, those are the mid-grade headsets, so those are probably not ones that I would ever look at.
Yeah, they look pretty good. I know we talked about this earlier, but I wasn't sure if you came across the custom.
Man, you just skated right by my slander.
I'm ignoring you, man. I heard it. When you said, "Oh, there's the Yep, I'm not gonna acknowledge that one. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Logic. Finish your point, man. You were saying.
No. I mean, those are cool. If people are really into that branding. I know people went hardcore in on like the Cyberpunk branded like peripherals that came out, and so if this is for a lot of people, for a lot of people, Diablo 4 is emotionally resonating, right? Or will be emotionally resonating for people who just have a long history, a legacy with that franchise, and if they consider that Diablo 4 is, I know I saw somebody in chat, casting aspersions on reviewers and how they're giving high scores for games that are catering to people who like the design of past iterations, and that's I've mentioned on the show that's always a risky razor's edge, right, to walk, because and I admit my own inconsistency in it, right? Sometimes there are games that come along that give me more of the exact same thing that the last thing did, and I love it, right? Because I'm just in love with that game approach, that game style, that game design. And then sometimes there are other games that don't innovate, that I put knocks against, because maybe I like the previous iteration, but there were some things that I didn't like about it. Like I currently just have a real displeasure with QuickTime events, and so anytime they come up, I have an immediate I kind of throw up in my mouth a little whenever I see that. although, right, admittedly, there are some good reasons for QTEs to still be in certain games, but I don't think not all. But yeah, it's so for people who have some emotional resonance with that, it's nice to see that there are some peripherals that cater to that crowd.
Yeah, want to give actually want to welcome B Money. What's up, B?
Going on, fellas?
Not much, man. Just yeah, I don't. Did you? I don't know if you caught the conversation we were having about the first 6 months of 2023. But if you didn't, B, I got to ask you a question, man. Do you think? What are your thoughts on the first 6 months so far? We were just talking about the Metacritic reviews for Street Fighter 6, Diablo 4. And now we're going to have the next big release is going to be Final Fantasy 16. But what are your thoughts about the first half of the year so far?
I mean, if you're just taking a look at the scores, I mean, it seems like it's a pretty good year. For me, like, I actually haven't picked up that many games this year, because like I kind of stayed away from the Dead Space remake just because it's a remake. I felt like I could just pick it up later. I picked up Resident Evil, but I haven't played it yet. Picked up Hogwarts Legacy. Haven't really played that yet either. And I'm trying to think. And then I picked up Octopath Traveler 2 and maybe a few other things. But for me, like I've just been playing a lot of Battlefield and playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom, things like that. So for me, like, I know a lot of people are really excited about the year, saying it's one of the greatest years of releases. But for me, there really hasn't been like too much that has really caught my eye as far as this being like one of the better years for releases. But if you're just going by numbers and review scores, then yeah, it's definitely has a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah.
So I love that. Yeah. I love that B is driving home one of my very common sayings on this show, which is that it is possible for the state of two beings to coexist. And yeah, I'm the same way. Like there are a lot of big titles that have gotten that are making great revenue, that are getting great review scores. Me personally, I'm the same way. B, I haven't found a lot here that particularly interests me so far this year. That's a me thing. That's not any statement about the quality of games or the critical acclaim of those games. I'm spending a lot of time, which is good because I often chastise myself for buying MLB The Show every year and then proceeding to not play more than like a dozen Major League Baseball games. So I'm glad that I've got some time to sit with that series this year. And I broke out my wheel and pedals last week, and I've actually been. I know. Again, these games sometimes aren't popular, but I've been going back and playing a lot of the Assassin's Creed open world games, Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla.
Yeah, I saw you posted a clip the other day. I think that was Origins, maybe.
It was.
Yeah.
You guys have taught me, man. People should chase clout by posting clips and screenshots, not by console war.
Did you play Syndicate? Did you like Syndicate at all? I was just playing that last week, and I really like that game. I think I like it more than Valhalla. I loved Odyssey, but I didn't like Valhalla. But Syndicate, for me, I don't know if it's just that they updated it a bit and it runs much better now. There was just something about those two characters and being able to switch between them both, and the moveset in that game just felt better to me.
No, and I do. So it's interesting because I started sliding down this, and BRAP if I'm diverging too long or
no, you're good, man. You're good because after this we'll get to the PlayStation, games as a service stuff. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I start. Well, this might be a good segue. So I started stumbling down this path because. Again, I left the Xbox ecosystem because of a personal choice I made for me as a consumer, and what it caused me to, instead of doing my typical kind of Game Pass rummage to see what's in there, it caused me to do the same thing with PlayStation Plus. And I was really amazed at what was in PlayStation Plus. At the time that I went rummaging through it, there's a total of 902 games in the service. And one of the things that's in there, because I had forgotten that the Ubisoft Classics like big drop of content in PS Plus had gone on. And so basically all of the Assassin's Creed games are in there. But in particular, I was like, I didn't spend enough time with Odyssey. Let me go back. And I started playing that. And I was like, holy cow, like I forget how much I love this game. And then I was like, I think I want to go back and play, these other three. And so I picked up the three open world ones on Epic, because the Epic Game Store was having a big sale over Memorial Day weekend. So I picked up those three games for like $27. But all of this caused me to go back and kind of look at the history, and I think B Money has seen, and I think Priscilla out in the chat has seen, where I've been talking about like the Assassin's Creed, the history of the franchise, and remembering how those years right after 3, right when Unity and Black Flag and Brotherhood and kind of that weird middle ground space where things maybe arguably, didn't go perfectly well, which caused them to take that year off and kind of rethink about the series. And then they came out with the approach of Origins, right, which they stuck with for 3 iterations. So, it's just kind of super interesting to go back and look at like the history of that franchise and how that design evolved and brought us to where we are now, where we have this incredibly divisive demographic of people who love the old version of Assassin's Creed. And then I was mentioning, we get a lot of poo-pooing on the open world. But, one of the things that I think has to be realized and recognized is like there's a generation of gamers like that is their Assassin's Creed. Like they would have come into the gaming world at the time where those games were the big deal, and they wouldn't really know right about the past model, or they would have gone back and played those games as a retro play, right? But so it's just super interesting, right? For any franchise really to have the longevity that one has, the number of iterations and releases it's had, and then to kind of see where the franchise is evolving now.
I was thinking about like another Assassin's Creed, like maybe somebody in like the year 3000 goes in the Animus and their ancestor lives in say like 1980s. And you're doing that in like a living city in the 80s. That would be like a really cool premise for an Assassin's Creed game.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, go ahead, B.
That's why I don't really mind them, kind of going to these different time periods now. The Mirage game is actually going to be like more of a shorter game and kind of be more of like the classic first 2 or 3 games, and then I believe they're doing like a witchcraft game, and then they're going to Japan with one of the games. So they're definitely going to be switching it up a little bit, which I encourage. I really like the first couple games, more of a tight story, and I didn't really mind Origins and Odyssey as far as the story was, but I just felt like it became too much. It was like, yo, why am I playing this game for so long? And I just kind of wanted to get to the end. So hopefully, they kind of find that middle ground where they can kind of, get that balance of both worlds. But I'm definitely interested in what they have coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, no, I am too. And I kind of like that they're going back to that shorter Assassin's Creed. Because like with Origins, like it got a little overwhelming for me. With all the stuff that you could do, and so but Worry, I was thinking about like what you just said about like going back in the 80s, and I was thinking like, can you imagine going back to like New York City, the 80s, Times Square?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Remember what Times Square was like in the 80s, or New York City like in the 80s? Jesus.
Yeah, I do. Like the genetic memory of somebody from way in the future, and their ancestor was like maybe 1985, and you're in a living city and you're parkouring, almost like, what was that first person parkour game where you were the female character? I forget what it was called. I think Ubisoft made it. Mirror's Edge, right? Mirror's Edge,
Mirror's
kind
Edge,
of like that. Yeah, that would be interesting. I'm kind of tired of the whole Middle Eastern themed Assassin's Creed games. I would like to see maybe something a bit different in terms of the environment, which is why I came up with that sort of like a living city that we can relate to as people who lived during that time.
Yeah, no, that would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. I do want to move over to PlayStation and their investment in games as a service. Where I know we talked about this on Crossfire, but I've seen more recently some conversation on social media, Twitter in particular. Some gamers are concerned that Sony may be I can't even talk, maybe abandoning their playbook of making single player content. I don't. And I know they're investing more in games as a service. Obviously, we saw an emphasis on games as a service, and one of the first games they showed at the showcase was Haven Studios game that I forget the name of the game now. It's kind of a high multiplayer co-op game. But
Fair Games.
I'm sorry, what is it? B Money?
Fair Games.
Fair Games. That's right. Thank you. But I don't, and I just my quick 2 cents on this particular topic. I don't see Sony. Unless there's no money to be made in making those single player games they're known for, I don't see an increased investment in games as a service as any kind of threat per se to their single player stuff, because their single player stuff makes money. Them and Nintendo, I think, are the only two right now that can really sell hardware off the back of their first party, and really sell a lot of first party. I mean, you look at the numbers that Nintendo puts up with its first party content. Sony's kind of getting to those Nintendo numbers now with some of their first party stuff. So I just don't see a situation right now where they're going to just totally pivot and abandon ship when their first party is making them money. It's a profitable side of their business, and it's something that there's demand for. That's just, you just look at the sales numbers, and that says it all. But so that's just my quick 2 cents. I do want to open that up to the panel. B, since you just jumped on the show, man, I want to go to you first. What are your thoughts, man? Do you think there's some concerns here, valid concerns with Sony investing more in games as a service, or do you see that this is just them growing their book of business? Like, hey, you know what, we're going to expand our portfolio. I know you talked a lot about Jim Ryan, his vision when he first came on board PlayStation. Do you see any potential threat to maybe first parties, that single player, their single player games with this increased investment in games as a service?
No, not at all. And I think it's funny that you see so many people out crying about this, as a huge concern in regards to their first party stuff. In regards to the single player, because that's what everybody kind of knows them for, and kind of to what Hamp was saying about this generation of gamers. Yeah, I mean, this generation of gamers only knows PlayStation for their single player experiences. But if we go back to PS3, there's multiple multiplayer experiences that were on the platform, along with the single player stuff that they had. It just never caught on. It was never as big as Halo. It was never as big as Call of Duty. And I think with PS3 being a generation where they had the big outage when SOCOM 4 came out, that kind of just dampened that audience as far as kind of growing with the multiplayer stuff. Even MAG, with 256 players online, still never really caught on like they thought it would. So they closed a lot of their multiplayer studios. Zipper was out of there. You know what I mean? So
MAG is a deep cut.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like they had multiplayer games, and they were still providing us with single player experiences. And I think just like any other company, when you have changes at the top as far as management, they are going to focus on different things, and that's what we saw. When we went from Jack Trenton to John Layden and Phil Harrison, they all were okay with just focusing on that single player experience and maximizing the dollars from that. But I told you guys, when Jim Ryan took over, there was going to be a totally different PlayStation. They were going to focus on having multiplayer experiences, because he's a business guy. He's a businessman. I told you that when he first took over. I'm like, that the way that we see PlayStation right now is not going to be the same PlayStation. And he was going to double down. Like, every studio was making multiple games, and that was not something that was happening before he took over. They would focus on one experience at a time. And now most of the teams have 2 or 3 games going at one time. So I don't see it as a problem as far as not getting single player experiences, because those will still come, and they will still be big budget, high quality experiences. But I also think they had to diversify their portfolio. Look at what's going on right now. If the biggest multiplayer game in the industry is about to be purchased by a first party studio, and yes, they keep saying that everybody's going to get a game for 10 years, but what happens after that? If that multiplayer experience, the biggest multiplayer experience, is no longer on their platform, what does PlayStation do? They have to be able to pivot and have those experiences, for their platform, and we see that they're extending that to the PC to grow the player base there, and they allowed Bungie to continue to put their games everywhere that they wanted to. So I don't see a problem with it. We'll still get those single player experiences. They're just now adding more to the buffet, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, no, that's no, and you're spot on about what you said about Jim Ryan. I mean, I remember you talking about that earlier, and him talking about having studios work on multiple projects. I want to go to you to worry, because I know we talked a little bit about this on Crossfire this past Friday. I'm going to ask you to share your thoughts again, because I know what your thoughts are, but ask you to share your thoughts again with the audience here.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really agree with all of that. I can't say that their single player experiences are going to be the same, or they're going to be as impactful, or they're going to be as quality driven, because I just don't know that. The only indication or litmus test that I have for a company that's sort of pushing more live service over everything else is Microsoft, and a lot of their content is just sort of this bastardized version of what a single player experience could be, should be, would be, and what a multiplayer experience could be, would be, should be. And it's sort of all squashed together because they're not sure what to do. And you really don't get, the best of anything. If Sony creates new single player IPs that carry forward like they did just last generation with Horizon Zero Dawn and Ghost of Tsushima, then there won't be a problem. So far, though, we haven't seen anything brand new from them like that. They haven't created new characters yet. They haven't done anything yet in 3 years. So maybe by the end of the PlayStation 5 generation, instead of getting 2, maybe we'll get 1 that's quality driven, and the rest will sort of either be co-op. You can kind of play it by yourself, but it's really meant for 4 people, a la a Redfall style game, or it'll be just completely live service driven. Other than that, I'm really not comfortable with them trying to, catch this. I don't know if it's a genie in a bottle when it comes to like Fortnite or some of these live service juggernauts, but it doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen overnight. And if they're going to create, like, I think it was, I forget the executive who said, if we're going to create 10 things, and if 1 catches on, then that'll pay for all the other 10. If it's a live service game and it's successful, I mean, that's great. But if you're spending that much money on all of that, you can't just keep adding without subtracting somewhere else. They don't have an unlimited budget when it comes to doing this stuff. So I'm in a wait and see mode. I'm waiting to see what, Sony Santa Monica, I think, said they're working on a single player science fiction game.
Yeah, that's Corey's game.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that. If that's high quality, if that sets the bar, like most, to be honest, most PlayStation single player games sort of set the bar within the generation that we're in, whether or not you love them or hate them. They just always do that. If they do that this generation, even with this live service push, I won't be worried, but I can't speak to that until I see it.
Yeah. Logic, what are your thoughts, man?
I mean, at face value, I don't have any concern. I think I often talk about your approach could be the Superman approach or the Batman approach, which is and I'll turn it a little bit on its head. Superman trusts everyone until they give him a reason not to trust them, and Batman trusts no one until you prove to him that you can be trusted. So there's the kind of approach that I feel like Worry Word is conveying, which is you don't know until they prove that they can. Or there's the approach that kind of B Money I think is advocating, which is you don't know that they can't until they prove that they fail. And I think I'm a little bit more aligned on B Money's side. I think one of the questions I want to ask Worry Word, because I think I heard it a little differently tonight than I heard the soundbite on Friday, is your concern not so much shifting the portfolio as discrete titles, right? Meaning, if their single player stuff continues to be single player and their multiplayer, right, game as a service, and I think there is a huge differentiation between just multiplayer versus game as a service. Is it that you're not so much worried about that, but you're worried about if they take the stuff that is single player, and I would say ostensibly single player, because there are things like Ghost of Tsushima has a multiplayer mode, despite the fact that Ghost of Tsushima is, I would argue, maybe their best single player IP from last generation. But now it has multiplayer. Is your concern more so if they take those single player things and hyper focus around multiplayer games as a service, like we're seeing with taking Tlu and being hyper focused around factions?
Yeah, so if you look at what Ben's studio just said, they just announced that they're working on something that continues the legacy of incredible story-driven games, but it's going to have a slant towards multiplayer. That's what I'm worried about, because I just have not seen that done successfully yet. If you're starting something that's going to be multiplayer centric, but you want to make sure that, well, if you want to play it by yourself, you can. It's never a really good, compelling single player experience. It just never works out that way. So that's what you're saying is what I'm concerned with. Yeah, absolutely. That they're going to sort of shoehorn in this, and I said it earlier, this sort of like bastardized version of what a single player game is and what a games as a service game is. And we're just going to miss out on what makes those really hyper focused single player experiences unique.
Yeah, and I think I can understand that more than concern about if they do for every 10 games, 6 of them are game as a service versus 4 that are single player focused. I can understand that. I can empathize with that a little bit more. I think the one thing that I was going to comment on is I think the concerns, right, will be for those who have concerns. Some of them will be the first form that I articulated, and some will be the second form, which Worry says, right, is more what he's kind of centered around. One of the things that I feel like is pertinent is, didn't at the beginning of this generation we already hear that Jim Ryan say that he was basically going to make everyone double down on the big marquee PlayStation studios? He was already going to make them double down on like their core IP that they were famous for, that those studios were not going to be taking risks, right, and doing new things, but that the Naughty Dogs and the Sucker Punches and the Insomniacs, that they're going to continue doing the titles that have made them famous, but didn't necessarily commit at that time to what variant it was going to be. But I thought that we already established at this beginning of this generation that we were going to get more of those kind of core IPs from the marquee studios.
I'm not sure if he said that or not, but I mean, I'm sure he said a lot of things that sort of just either are accurate or just sort of just fluff. But I haven't seen that yet. That's my point. Like, I haven't seen. I don't know if 3 years might be a good estimation of time to see at least something from a first party studio that speaks to what PlayStation does really well. Maybe it's 4 years, maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's the end of the generation and we see one game. What I'm worried about is that that focus in on trying to squeeze a game and squeeze a player base for all the money that you possibly can, while still maintaining great characters, great stories, great world building. I just don't see that happening. I think he did say that. I think he did say that Insomniac's going to continue. Obviously, Insomniac's doing a sequel to a big single player adventure game in Spider-Man 2. Sucker Punch, I have no idea what they're doing. We talked about Sony Santa Monica with the, I'm assuming it's a single player space adventure game. I don't know. Maybe when they announce it, it'll be a single player, quote unquote, massive multiplayer online style game. I don't know. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about less about them making, like you said, 6 live service games and 4 single player games. That's fine. I'll just jump all over those 4 single player games. But if there's this crossover that they're trying to do, like Microsoft has done, I look at Arcane, when Arcane was talking about Redfall, and I love Dishonored, and I love Dishonored 2. I love those games. And they talked about this is just like those games. If you're a single player fan of our games, you can play these games the same way, but there's this component for live service. And we got Redfall. It is their worst game ever. It is not even close to being what they've done in the past. I just don't want that happening when it comes to what I expect out of Sony on their first party.
Yeah, BRAP, and he may worry maybe making me flip my vote and switch sides because that's exactly what I said the whole time about Arcane Studios. I said same thing. I love Arcane Studios. I love Dishonored. I love Prey. But that's what I said the whole time with Redfall. I said it's a studio who does not have a pedigree in multiplayer, that they're trying to do this thing, and that's fine if that's what they want to experiment with creatively. But I was like, but I'm not going to sit here and have high confidence and high expectations about that, right? Because I don't have any reason to until they prove their salt with it, and obviously we saw that they weren't able to pull that off.
Yeah, and part of this concern too is coming from the reports of Bungie looking at what Naughty Dog's working with the factions, Factions 2, whatever it is, and saying, no, this isn't it. So that's part of that concern too. I think that's driving this conversation. You have Naughty Dog,
why would people be concerned about that?
Well, I was just gonna say like that's the kind of thing that you want though. We always share the famous story of Shuhei looking at the first God of War 2018 build and saying, "Nah, this isn't it. Go back to the drawing board." The same thing is happening, presumably with Bungie giving feedback to Naughty Dog. So. But to your point, I mean that is the kind of QA or quality check that you want to have, and I think that's an example of Sony leveraging their internal first-party studios. We know that they work with each other. We know that these first-party studios have a close working relationship. They'll bounce ideas off each other. They will share technology with one another, and there's some friendly competition there. But no, I don't disagree with you, B-Money. That's kind of what you would want. If the game is not up to stuff, and something should have happened, and that's the same thing that should have probably happened with Redfall.
Yeah, I mean, I think the situation with Factions is just different because Factions has been a multiplayer experience from a game that came out in 2013, and what they were trying to do was just expand that experience, so that they could, make it into a games as a service. And what Bungie, gave them feedback on is, what you're trying to do here is not going to work, for what your goal was at the end of the day. So for me, like, I don't have any concern with that because if the goal was to make Factions into a games as a service and what they saw was not feasible for that, then I'm cool with that. I would have much rather Factions 2 just been more of what the original game was and just release it with TLU 2, just with updated movement and maybe, a few more maps and things like that. But they wanted to expand, what they had there. They thought they could, add some more story elements to it. And kind of really fill out that world and give players just a little bit more experience in that world without playing as Joel or Ellie. So I understand what they're trying to do. Obviously it wasn't executed properly, and we're kind of at where we're at now. But I don't really have any concern about them saying like, no, this wasn't it, because even if we look at a deviation, a situation where that game is presumably canceled, the other 2 studios that PlayStation was working with at that time were Haven and Firewalk. Firewalk was under a different publisher. They were under a totally different publisher arm under probably Monsters. So PlayStation bought both of those studios, and both of those games were announced. Obviously, whatever deviation had going on over there wasn't up to snuff, and the game is out of there. So for me, I don't really see any concern by that, because obviously whatever they had working didn't meet the bar, and that happens. You know what I mean? It kind of is what it is. And they moved on from that. So for me, I look at it as a good thing. I don't really see any concern behind that.
Yeah, and some of the live chat. Oh, geez, who was it? I need to find it. They said it had nothing to do with the quality of the game, but the monetization. That was the issue. Shoot. Let me see if I can find this again.
And how do we know that? I mean, they haven't announced anything. Bungie hasn't said what it was. So how does that person know that in the chat?
I mean, my feeling is okay. I mean, I don't want to say who cares what the reason was, right? But look, there's 99 reasons why a game should be canceled or the plug should be pulled before further investment is made, because that's squandering of resources. And yes, I mean, and that's part of the issue with games as a service is they are more complex to implement, because it's not simply a matter of implementing a good design, singularly as a single, entity. As a game, there are other hooks that it has to it, because it has to have a recurring revenue model. It's got to produce operational cash flow, and it's a different financial structure than a game that you sell and has to sell within 30 days, 60 days, a 90-day launch window, and then has a running revenue tail at which the title is discounted and yada yada yada. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the point that the person brought up was irrelevant. What I'm saying is that that's possible. There's a myriad number of reasons why it should be canceled, but that doesn't mean that those reasons for canceling it are not valid, and that there are going to be more valid reasons for canceling a game as a service, given its increased complexity as a financial model than a singular unit sale title.
Yeah. And by the way, the report about factions also indicates a brand new single player experience that Naughty Dog's working a new IP. But I'm also pulling this one piece from article here on Forbes, where they say Bungie's evaluation of the Last of Us factions, that Sony has invested heavily in games as a service or video games designed to be monetized beyond their initial sales through ongoing purchases. As part of that push, it asked another of its video game studios, Seattle-based Bungie, to evaluate the games across its portfolio. Bungie raised questions about the Last of Us multiplayer project's ability to keep players engaged for a long period of time, which led to the reassessment of the game.
Yep. And I mean, we kind of saw this with Anthem, right, as a good case study, but with other games as well. If the design implementation of your game does not allow you, we're seeing this with Halo Infinite, does not allow you to iterate content quickly at a low level of effort, then you're going to expend a ton of development resources creating content, not be able to turn that content around fast enough to keep people engaged, and therefore not be able to garner sufficient recurring revenue in an operational cash flow model. So those types of things are going to be problematic to keep a game as a service running. I think the thing that B mentioned to me is the thing that I find really key and pertinent, which is that I think there's a lot of hyper focus on the fact that it's Bungie, right, and reviewing Bungie's past pedigree and their past history, and I get that and I understand it, but I think what's key here for me is it is the implementation of the thing that I've been saying needs to happen at Microsoft. When you go back at Xbox, when you go back to Phil Spencer's comment about, we're gonna review our internal processes. That's one of the things that I've been harping on, is that particularly for a engineering organization that is also trying to feed a subscription service and that has different demands upon it, that you have to hold people accountable, which means you have to have rubrics and frameworks and standards. and indications when you're going to pull a plug on something, so that it's not entirely subjective, so that people have to make schedule, so that there are consequences for not making schedule, but also so that you build redundancy in the production pipeline to compensate for when people fail. And one of the things that you have to have that most engineering organizations do have is you have the exact thing that PlayStation is doing, which is you have some notion of governance, you have some notion of design review, you have some notion of people vested with an authority to conduct a review, render a professional, technical, business opinion, and for the decision makers to then be able to take that into context to make their final decision on what they're going to do. So in my mind, it's a good structure, it's good discipline, it's good due diligence, it's good regimen. To me, it smacks of all of those things that it feels like are lacking in the Xbox organization in terms of, we're gonna these are all gonna be creator-led studios, and we're basically gonna let them do what they want, which I feel like is resulting in some of the things that Worry brought up, which is things like the Halo E3 demonstration are a surprise to upper level leadership, which clearly they should probably not be. Things like Redfall are a surprise. They catch people off guard. That stuff happens when you don't have regular status reviews. Your comment about BRAP about Phil basically having to get on a plane and go out to Bethesda to understand what the heck was going on with Starfield, because he'd been asking Todd for a while, and hadn't been getting, the information. Whether that's true or not, and that is the way it really went down, the point is that clearly there was a lack of understanding on where Starfield was, right? And therefore a rejiggering of the pipeline, right? And a resetting of expectations that had to be done. That again happens when you don't have your fingers on the pulse. Again, very large organization, and it's not to say entirely that it is a lack of Xbox acumen. They are trying to do something that has not been done before in the size of the production pipeline that they're trying to rig and manage. But recognition that that level of complexity drives more complex processes and more due diligence and more regimen that it just seems like hasn't necessarily been taken into account.
Yeah. By the way, Hamp, that article I read, that report is actually by your favorite reporter, Jason Schreier. So.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you read it to me before you mentioned who it was from.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll leave it at that. Yeah. But no, great. That's a great point there, Game Logic. I do want to move to the last topic of the evening here before we get to the 11 o'clock hour. Microsoft marketing put together I don't know if you guys saw this on Twitter, a trailer which looked like kind of like pixie dust leading from the Xbox all over the Xbox controller, up a set of stairs, and to the Xbox logo and everything on the screen. Some people are thinking that this is a tease of the upcoming remake or reboot of Fable that Playground Studios is working on. Look, have you heard anything at all?
They literally just tweeted out today that they're looking for a senior gameplay designer for Fable. So how in the world can that game be there at the showcase if the senior gameplay designer doesn't even exist yet?
Vertical slice of it? I don't know. Probably, yeah. Okay. I didn't see that tweet, but thank you, Worry. Yeah. So I guess we could assume that maybe Fable won't be there then.
Maybe another CGI.
What if this is a collection of games that Phil was talking about?
Like a Fable collection?
Yeah.
I could see that
collection yet, right?
I don't think they've done a Fable collection.
Well, they did Fable Anniversary, and Fable 2 and 3 are enhanced through backwards compatibility.
Oh, okay. I wonder if they do. I don't know. I wouldn't be interested in a Fable collection, to be honest with you. That just wouldn't be my thing. Yeah. Darkseid is saying every single day they hire. They're for hire at Playground. I guess you're saying they hire. They're hiring a lot on Play. Are you seeing? I guess, Dark. Are you seeing like job postings daily for Playground Studios specifically for Fable? Anyhow. So I'm sorry, B. You think that this could be like a Fable collection then?
I mean, I have no idea. I mean, didn't they show this game like 4 years ago? 3 or 4 years ago? Was the tease, right?
I think it was like 3 years ago. Yeah, they showed the
little fairy getting eaten by the frog.
Yeah, and then that's my question. Like, and I don't mean to be negative when it comes to this with Xbox, but if they showed it 4 years ago, how do you not have a senior gameplay designer 4 years later for the game?
I mean, just to poke a little hole in that. I mean, couldn't that be a rehire for somebody who left and vacated the position?
It could be, but they didn't say. They just said they're looking for a senior gameplay designer to join the team to help develop Fable.
I mean, like, and that's the thing, we don't know. I mean, like, I think to your point, where it could be a new role, maybe, or to your point, Game Logic, it could be a backfill. Someone left, or maybe someone was promoted to a new role.
I hope that's the case, because I really feel that game needs to be at this showcase in some form.
Yeah, I'm gonna Game Logic. I would put my TA hat on here. I'm gonna say, just given that this game's probably been in development for a couple of years, that this could be a backfill. I'm leaning towards backfill.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that definitively. I'm just saying, it's, you could split that atom 50-50, right, and say it could be either or.
Yeah. But that whole, like, that sequence of the I don't know, pixel dust, whatever it was, that they showed, the first thing that came to my mind was Fable. Unless it's some weird Starfield tease, which I don't think it would be, or something else. I don't know. Jeeves is saying they basically started from scratch again in 2021. Yeah, there was that rumor that they rebooted.
That's a report that was disproven.
Oh, was disproven? Okay.
Yeah. I believe it was a rumor that ran around that GameIndustry.biz put down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's about time for them to show something. They teased it like 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know how much longer we could go without seeing these games. When you just look at some of the stuff that they announced, it's been a while for a lot of stuff. Like, a lot of stuff is due to be shown at this showcase, and I don't know what all is going to be shown, but Fable is definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. State of Decay 3, I think someone just posted that, like, everyone was working on the game previously.
The whole team is gone from that.
The whole team is gone, so, like, who knows what's going on with State of Decay 3.
How about Everwild from Rare?
Yeah, Everwild. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of games that they've announced and teased and shown. We have no idea what's going on with them.
Yeah, they're not going to show Everwild. I my understanding was that was rebooted too.
Yes, that was rebooted. They did confirm that.
Yeah, actually, Apex Predator saying, BRAP, the music they use is nearly identical from the Bowerstone theme from Fable 1 and 2. Okay. So if what again, I think it's probably Fable. I hope it's not a Fable collection announcement, because that just wouldn't move the needle for me personally. That wouldn't do anything for me. I'd rather, I want to see what the new I want to see what the new Fable looks like. I want to see something. Because you're right, B. It's been about 3 years since they announced the game.
So here's the thing. There is absolutely no need to grade this show or to consider this show, quite honestly, to be of any significance whatsoever. Like, they have, and I'm sitting here watching the 2018 trailer. Like, there's a bevy of Xbox E3 presentations and shows that in my mind were the stuff of belief. Like, I would watch these shows, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago, and I would literally stand up in my chair sometimes and be like, I believe, right? But that belief ended with the show last year, right? I would really say the January show, They came out in June 2022. They knew they had to present a return to green plan. They knew they had to get good. They came out with a 12-month plan, and Spencer himself said they failed to deliver on that plan. So in my mind, you can come onto the stage and say whatever you want to in June of 2023. As far as I'm concerned, I don't even know that they necessarily need to have a show. They could just post a trailer palooza on YouTube for all I care. Like, nothing that any Xbox representative can say in June of 2023 makes one iota of difference to me, and I would argue shouldn't make any difference to any Xbox fan. Nothing that Xbox has to say means anything until they start delivering games this fall. And anyone who leans into and leans onto things that they purport, promulgate, promise, right? I mean, you're you know, I feel like that's really a lean on you know, on non-tangibles. You know, they've unfortunately, you know, whiffed the T-ball, you know, so many times, and most effectively from last year and into this year in terms of how everything has been handled, how they came out on stage in June, said a bunch of stuff, said things were going to be delivered, came into January and skated right by what they'd said. Skated by that on Starfield, skated by that on Forza, skated by that on Redfall. And then weeks after the show, delayed Starfield, talked about Redfall being 30 frames per second, still applied no date to Forza. Like, that to me is really broken PR and messaging. And there's no recovery from that. Last year we had a very lengthy discussion about how would they recover in the June 2022 show. There is no recovery for the June 2023 show. The only recovery there is delivering on games starting this fall.
I just hope that they don't give the show an 8.5, because according to Xbox Era, an 8.5 is a score that's used to promote negativity towards Xbox and their games.
Oh, man. I mean, oh, my goodness. Yeah.
I also want to state a thing that I don't understand about PR and marketing and messaging is I don't understand how, like, from my memory, what's etched into my memory from those shows of past E3s is I feel like Xbox like made this, like coined this, like the whole world exclusive, day one on Game Pass, you know, world premiere, like that was all like Xbox stuff. And then fast forward to 2023 and we have this dialogue and narrative that now exclusives don't matter. I'm like, they sure as hell mattered in all those E3 shows. Were like, we were all taught to get super excited every time a trailer came on that said world premiere Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, he literally said, we're not building this console to be second place. We want to win the generation. And then I think like maybe a month ago, he said that no matter what we do, we can't win. And that's not our focus. So you're right. I mean, I remember seeing, you know, world premiere only on Xbox or anything like that. I remember seeing that, and then they just can't. I don't know what it is. They just cannot deliver a solid, competent AAA game. They just can't do it. I don't know why. It's baffling at this point. I think they don't want to do it. I think they want to change the perception of what quality is, because they have a very clear definition of what the industry should be and how they should be in charge of it all. And that's why you're seeing this sort of, you know, most of the stuff that you're referring to is driven by social media. And there's this sort of like, quote unquote, community centered around being an Xbox fan. And that means just spending all day on Twitter versus actually like saying, hey, it'd be nice if a first party, this is the only company in the world where employees don't have to do anything. I never heard of that in my life. You get hired to do something, you have to produce eventually. And these teams have got to start producing things that are, you know, quality driven. It's not just, everything isn't subjective. There's an objective level of quality to things, and they just haven't met that. So,
well, And I think that's.
I want to be excited about the show. I'm still I'm at the point where I'm like, they have to, at this point, they have to know that they have to deliver. At this point, again, we're at this point again. They have to know, right? They can't not know that they have to deliver.
I mean, Worry, yeah, I would agree with you. I agree with you that they have to deliver. They should know that. I'm just not confident that they will, just given their track record, their recent track record. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I've said this a million times on the show. I want to see Xbox release, content that really moves the needle, for the industry, that moves the needle for, those that are in the Xbox ecosystem, the way that games like Halo and Gears of War did, and I don't know. I mean, look, I think there's a reason why, and I know Logic, you and I've talked about this a lot. There's a reason why that they're in third place as a console. And it comes back to the content. You look at what Nintendo are doing. You look at what Sony's doing. You look at how the markets received their platforms. I mean, there's a reason why their platforms are the top 2 selling platforms in the video game industry, and it goes back to content.
What's crazy is that Nintendo recycles the same IPs for 30-something years.
Yeah,
and they still do it at the top level.
Oh, it's amazing. Look at like Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, that's the Zelda. I mean, Be Buddy. I played the first Legend of Zelda when I was like 10 years old, 11 years old.
Yeah.
It was just like 35 years ago. And when that game came out, it was groundbreaking. And it's amazing that they've been able to, I mean, Zelda's 35-year, it's a 35-year-old franchise. It's amazing that now this iteration of Zelda is in talks for being Game of the Year.
Yeah.
That's a great point, where B Money. I mean, did you guys play The Adventure of Link? Did anyone play that?
Terrible.
Oh, you didn't like it, Worry?
Yeah.
No, I didn't like Zelda 2.
I know it was a little controversial because it was kind of a departure from the first Zelda.
I mean, it was controversial because it was just ass.
Oh, I loved it.
Was
I thought it was good. I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I mean, it did the same thing with Mario too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the second game was just like, yo, what is this?
I wasn't a big fan of Super Mario 2 as much as Super Mario 1, but Super Mario 3 I enjoyed. But anyhow, yeah. But yeah, I mean, Logic, I don't disagree with you that it's not about, because for me it's not just so much about having a good showcase. It's about delivering now in software. Now we're at a point where it's you got to show up now, and not just showing us trailers or announcing new games. It's actually delivering that content. So yeah, we'll see. So Logic, did you see people already rating the show? You said something about rating the Xbox showcase. Did you, I haven't seen that. Or
no, I was just mainly channeling my expectations. I mean, people have already. I mean, and it's not. And I'm not going to be totally critical about it. I mean, it's not even just the console warring stuff. It's just the. I mean, my personal outlook as a consumer is, like I said, like people who are going to grade the show are, on the extreme, like, I don't know, on the extreme edge of kind of how to treat the whole thing. I mean, me personally as a consumer, I'm like, you told me a thing one summer, you came back right in the January following and tried, to me, skated right by what you had told all of us, 6 months ago, dropped more bad news, right, weeks after the show, which ostensibly I have to believe you had to know when you did the January show, right? And I mean, so at this point, with me as a consumer, you're not in a place where you can say anything that is going to give me any different expectations, right? All these people running around throwing up the JPEG of thumbnails of like all these games that are supposedly in work. Like, who cares? Who cares? Like, you can walk on the stage and now this year, I mean, the difference to me is last year when we had that lengthy conversation about what they needed to do, and I said they needed to show a long range roadmap, right? That would I wasn't talking 12 months. I was saying it needed to go out, 2 years, 3 years. You needed to tell us what all these studios were working on in an official capacity, not rumor control central, not gossip mess from Tom Henderson and the usual cast of characters. Official announcements. Like, you can't, like, even if they do that this year, I'm just like, that wouldn't mean anything to me if you gave me a 3-year roadmap, because I couldn't have any confidence in it because I don't have a recent track record of performance and delivery and operational excellence that tells me that you're going to hit those metrics, So that's what I just mean by, it's, there would be no point in rating the show. There would be no point in saying, look at all these great, because I know that's going to happen. Look at all these great games. Look at everything that they showed. I'm like, what does that mean in terms of those games actually showing up on time? Because everything that they've told us about before isn't showing up and isn't on time.
Yeah, no, it's that's a fair point. Logic, again, based on their performance, their past performance. So.
And I know, and some people are saying, well, that's got to move them out of third place. Again, I go, who cares? Like, it's not a matter of, like Phil said, it's not a matter of, by delivering all these games, we're going to suddenly pop into second or first place. It's like the minimum delivery that's required is that for those of us who were concerned about getting return on an investment on a $500 box, right, that you provide that ROI. Because to date, they haven't. And I know that some consumers feel that delivery of the ROI is simply having Game Pass. But that wasn't my personal rubric. And it wasn't my expectation, and it's not going to be my expectation. Like, delivering on Game Pass isn't sufficient, right, for me. And apparently isn't sufficient for the rest of the market, right, who hasn't gone out and bought Xboxes that allows them to move out of being in third place in terms of a user install base.
Yeah, that's a great point, Logic. Gentlemen, before I wrap up the show, any last words from either B Money or Worry Word?
Have they announced how long the show is actually supposed to be?
I don't know. It's a great question. I know it's June 11th.
I think it's supposed to be an hour and a half.
Oh, an hour and a half?
Yeah, don't hold me to that, but I think it's supposed to be an hour and a half.
Let's see here.
I know that there was a lot going around that was going to be much longer than the PlayStation show.
It's going to be June 11th, which is Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yeah, I'm trying. I don't see anything about length here. The duration of the show. How long was last year's showcase? Do we remember?
Well, I think the base show was like an hour, and then they do separate Bethesda like show.
Yeah, they do a separate Bethesda show. Jeeves is saying 2 hours. But I don't think that's confirmed.
Jeeves. The Xbox Bethesda Game Showcase 2022 was 1 hour 35 minutes.
Okay. So it may be the same then. We know that they're going to... Apex is saying main show is 2 hours and Starfield is having their own show, I think a day after the main show.
Oh, it's right after.
Yeah. I'm not seeing that, though, where... Go ahead, B.
The Starfield show is airing right after the showcase. So
that's what I thought.
30 minutes, is airing right after. So I was just trying to figure out if the show is going to be an hour, because Xbox usually runs for 90 minutes. I'm wondering if the main showcase is an hour and then the Starfield is 30 minutes, or if they're running 90-minute showcase with Starfield in 30 minutes.
I'm trying to find it here.
Like I said, I mean, if we're just trying to map out like what the show is, there's quite a few games that they've announced that they would have to kind of speak on at this point. So, I mean, there's what, at least six to eight games that they would have to speak on. And just trying to see what else could kind of fill out the show as far as the third party stuff. We'll know that there's going to be idea Xbox stuff there, and then our other Bethesda games going to be in the main showcase, since Starfield is kind of getting its own thing. So just trying to ponder what could actually be there.
Yeah, I'm trying to find this. Someone said Gamer Rant said there was an article. Let's see here. I'm not seeing anything with how long the show is. Yeah. Anyhow. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. All right. Well, we're going to talk about the next Wednesday. We're going to discuss the Xbox showcase, because it'll take place that Sunday, or not that Sunday. Is it? Look at the calendar here. Yep, next Wednesday we're going to discuss the Xbox showcase, because it will be next Wednesday is the 7th of June, and it will be that following, so that Sunday actually of that week. So. Yeah, I'm still not seeing anything in terms of time. Anyhow. All right. So, look, that's all we have for topics tonight. I want to thank everyone in the live chat for coming by, hanging out with us. Really appreciate it, as always. Please do me a favor, hit that like button if you haven't done so already. And if you're new, or actually, I'm sorry, not if you're new, but if your first time watching the show, and do me and you're interested in listening to more BRAP content, please subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. And again, thank you everyone in the live chat for hanging out with us this evening. And big shout out to the panel. Worry, thank you for joining us, man. Really appreciate the time, man.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for allowing me to join.
Yeah, I'm glad we got the mute thing figured out.
Yeah, I'm working on the high-end technology here, figuring it all out. I still can't figure out how to link my Discord to YouTube, but maybe by 2040 I'll figure it out.
Exactly. No, but thank you again, Where I appreciate it, man. And B Money, who do you got in the finals, man? I meant to ask you that earlier.
You can't really deny the Heat, man. The Heat are definitely proving a lot of people wrong. First play-in team, AFC to actually make it to the finals. They got a lot of fight and grit, but the Nuggets are a tall task. I'm gonna go with the Heat because Jimmy Butler, but that's my heart, but my mind is telling me the Nuggets are gonna win.
All right, I'm gonna go with Miami in 7.
Miami in 7?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I can see that happen. Tyler Hero's got to come back though. Tyler Hero's got to come back because they're gonna need his shooting. Otherwise, it's gonna be a long day for those Miami boys.
Yeah, that's true. But I do think that going through that, having that adversity with the Celtics series, against the Celtics, being up 3-0 and then losing the next 3 games, and then and going to a game against a very good Celtics team. Like, I think that's why I have been going for 4-3 and winning it.
Yeah, I hope so.
I just think that experience, go through that adversity, is going to help them. But we'll see. I mean, Denver's no slouch, so.
Not at all.
Yeah. But, B, hey, man, always great talking video games with you. By the way, NBA 2K23 is going to be part of PlayStation Plus. Maybe we can get a game in, man.
Hey, whenever you're ready, man.
Every once in a while, I have people ask me for that. What are you going to play, B Money? What are you going to stream live? Yeah, maybe we'll do like a final stream.
You could do that.
Miami versus Denver. We should do that. So game one's tomorrow night, by the way. But not be always a pleasure, man. And Game Logic. Hey man, I got a T-shirt I'm shipping to you. I know you're gonna like it, but always a pleasure talking video games with you, man.
Yeah, man, it was a good show. Appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man, absolutely. So, all right, everyone, look, enjoy the rest of the week. Look, have fun playing video games, and that's all that matters. As long as you're having fun playing video games, because that's what it's all about. We will catch you. Actually, I may do a BRAP rant later this week, and I'm not sure. I may do it Friday late afternoon, but I'm not sure. But anyhow, give me a follow, BRAP_podcast on Twitter for updates related to the show. But yeah, everyone, have a great week. Enjoy your time playing video games, because that's ultimately what it's all about.